Welcome to DEFCON 3. I'm KT McFarland. Kim Jong-un's North Korean regime has recently increased its direct and indirect attacks against the United States, as well as our allies in East Asia. Its nuclear weapons program continues. The rhetoric is escalating, and the FBI says they're behind the recent cyber attack against Sony Studios. Well, joining us to discuss are American Foreign Policy Council's Ilan Berman, and from the Council on Foreign Relations, Scott Snyder. Let me go first to you, Ilan. Are we already in a cyber war with North Korea?
Well, I think that's certainly an issue of debate. There's been a lot of back and forth on the Sony hacks. A number of cyber experts that have written recently have said that it's not really North Korea. It's more likely to be an inside job. But I think the FBI and I think law enforcement in the United States generally is fairly convinced that this is a North Korean attack, and that this is a North Korean attack in retaliation for something that the North Koreans hold very dear, which is the international image and prestige, such as it is, of their young leader, Kim Jong-un.
Let me turn to you, Scott. North Korea, we call it the hermit kingdom, right? It doesn't interact on the world stage except for these threats and its testing. Why have we not seen more testing, missile testing or nuclear weapons testing in the last few weeks as this other rhetoric has escalated?
Well, I think that to a certain extent the UN sanctions have worked to help to deter North Korea from doing overt testing, but that does not mean they are not making progress on their program. In fact, what we've seen over the course of the past few weeks are revelations of North Korean efforts to build a naval launch capability, and also reports that they're continuing to work on a missile capability over the course of the past few months.
Ilan, one of our strongest allies in the region is South Korea. We have military exercises with South Korea. How does South Korea view this increased North Korean threat?
Well, I think they view it the way they should, which is they're tremendously menaced by the overwhelming numerical military capability of North Korea. And the ability of North Korea to devastate cities like Seoul. But this is interesting because North Korea, and this is not new, they've done this for a while, has used that as a point of leverage in their discussions, not with South Korea, but with the United States. For example, over the weekend, the North Koreans told the United States through intermediaries that they were willing to forego a fourth nuclear test. They've done three. Did one in 2006, one in 2009, one in 2013, and they're on the cusp of doing one again, or so some reports conclude. They said that they would be willing to forego it if the United States scaled back, pared back its military presence and exercises in South Korea. So this is being used very much as a blackmail tool.
Scott, North Korea as the hermit kingdom, you're known by the friends you keep and by the enemies you make. Who are North Korea's allies in the world? And is it an economic relationship, military, political, ideological? What do you think?
Yeah, I'm not really sure that the North Koreans have any real allies at this point, but they do have customers. And Iran and Syria have been among their most active economic relationships. Of course, there are suspicions that North Korea is engaged in nuclear and missile cooperation with both of those two states.
As we go through the next couple of months, one of the big issues in American foreign policy is going to be the relationship with Iran, Iran's nuclear program, Iran's support of Assad of Syria. Ilan, what do you make of the North Korean contribution to Iran's nuclear program?
Well, the question of their contribution on the nuclear front is somewhat speculative. There's a lot of experts that say that there's circumstantial evidence, but there's not a lot of there. Where there is concrete evidence of North Korean-Iranian collusion is, for example, on cooperation on ballistic missiles. The mainstay of Iran's ballistic missile arsenal is a missile called the Shahab-3. The Shahab-3 is a North Korean missile, a Nodong, that they've repurposed. And the Iranians have exhibited a pretty significant on-the-ground presence at virtually every single one of the ballistic missile tests that the North Koreans have carried out over the last several years, and also at the nuclear tests. So the idea that there's no cooperation at all is simply farcical.
Well, then let me turn to you, Scott. What keeps you up at night with regard to North Korea?
Well, I do believe that cooperation with Iran and also Syria continues. But I think the thing that we should really be concerned about is that North Korea has expressed hostile intent repeatedly toward the United States, and they continue to work unchecked to build a capability to try to reach the United States. I think that's their clear goal, and if we don't put into place a mechanism by which to stop them, then the situation is going to be considerably worse in the future than it is today.
Well, thank you both for commenting. So thanks, Elon, and thanks, Scott. And for more on this developing story about North Korea and other issues, please stay with FoxNews.com. I'm KT McFarland, and thanks for watching.